Hello, and welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm your host, Karen Yankovich, and I'm excited to be here today with our guest this week, Celi Arias. Celi and I'm really looking forward to getting to know Celi. I don't know her that well, so we're going to meet her together. Celi is the CEO and founder of the Grown Ass Business, where she guides entrepreneurs through her proprietary methodology, Key Growth Systems. She helps you build strong foundations in your business. Recognized as a top coach by The Upside in 2024, Celi helps clients break free from revenue plateaus and burnout by focusing on core business principles over quick fixes. I love that. Her approach emphasizes clarity and control, optimizing essential business departments to ensure solid foundations for scaling up to seven figures and beyond. With an impressive educational background, including 2 bachelor's degrees, an MBA, a Master of Divinity, and 2 additional certificates, Celi brings a wealth of knowledge to her coaching practice. Her diverse experiences from professional tango dancing to working in the fashion industry, coupled with her immigrant background from Argentina, have shaped her into a dynamic and passionate coach dedicated to helping entrepreneurs achieve their business goals and realize their full potential. Celi, welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you too. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Wow. All the things. I want to dive into like all the things. But I think
you just read my bio and I'm like, I need to edit that down. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. You know what? It's fine. If I needed to, I would have, but it was a lot of good stuff in there. So I wanted to get it all out. We're recording this. It's the end of 2024. It's been a crazy year for business. I'm not sure. This is probably going to go live in the end of 2024. I didn't actually look before we hit this recording, but I guess as I'm looking at all of this, some of the things that I really love about what you talk about are the core business principles and the clarity and control and scaling, because I don't know if you're experiencing this, but I can tell you that I've experienced this, and many of the people I've interviewed and many of my clients, 2024 and maybe even parts of 2023, there was just some big shifts in how business is working, and what worked 2 years ago is not necessarily working now. And I've never seen it in my business the way it's been in the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to hearing your take on all of this.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Let's get into it.
So you talk, so in my notes about the kinds of conversations we could have here, you talk about the fact that your journey comes from being homeless to becoming a 7-figure business owner. So tell me a little bit about that. Let's start there. Like how, because I think our audience can relate to shifts in identity and shifts in prosperity and shifts in, just how things are working. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. It's funny too. There's things about your journey that you kind of block out or don't give it much energy and attention because it was a hard time in your life. And I was at a dinner last year. I was at a important people's dinner put on by my mentor. And he does this thing where you go to if you're invited to these dinners, you're not allowed to say what you do. And he'll give you prompts to make it kind of an interesting night of deeper connection with interesting people. There might be some famous people in the room, so you obviously recognize them. And you're like, well, I know what you do, right?
Right.
But he went around. He was to my left and his assistant was to my right. And he sent out this prompt of, share one thing that no one at this table would ever guess about you that's really embarrassing. Something that's embarrassing about you that you would no one could ever believe that happened to you. And I was sitting next to his assistant, and of course I was the last one to go because he went around to his left, so I'm listening to all these really interesting, amazing stories. And
which I kind of like that position though, because you can also kind of feel out the room. What kinds of things are people going to say? Right.
That's true. But it's like everyone gets better and better and better. And so I was like, oh no. And I looked at her and I was like, I don't know which story to tell. I have two really, and because I have a really, really interesting background, which you just read a lot about, which you would never believe in a million years. And she looked at me and she said, well, something I'd never believe about you is that you've ever experienced anything like homelessness. And I was like, funny you should say that. That wasn't even one of my stories I would consider sharing. And it was this funny moment to me and I told her that and she was flabbergasted. And I thought, oh, wow, there's some areas where we really hold so much shame. We don't even consider that a story worth telling, even when prompted.
Wow. Yeah. And there's a lot of vulnerability around that to share that. right? But I
Yeah.
think that that also brings relatability. So what happened when you shared the story?
Yeah. So there was this moment of, oh, good Lord, there's a lot of power in some of my stories that aren't the glamorous
Mhm.
success stories. Right. So I share it more openly now. So when you asked me that, I was like, oh, that's funny that this is coming up. Um, but yeah, for me, I have been an entrepreneur since I was 11 years old. I'm an immigrant and child of immigrants. And when I was a kid, I really wanted to study ballet and my parents couldn't afford it. And I was very much entrepreneurial. I was like, no problem, no big deal. I'll just start a business. I'll just do something to make money. And I didn't want to mow lawns because that seemed exhausting. So I started a babysitting club and I literally made my own money. I rode my little garage sale bicycle to the nearest dance studio. I went in and I signed myself up.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I feel like if you were that way as a kid, you're probably an
I think
entrepreneur.
that's true. I was thinking about that when you were saying that. Like, if you ask, I should maybe ask that question on on this show to people more. Like, were you entrepreneurial as a kid? Because I think you'll find that, we're the ones that were like organizing the backyard plays and carnivals, and
Yes. Yes, and charging
right,
admittance and
right, charging admittance.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, in my 20s, I had a fashion line. Um,
Hmm.
Fast forward, I moved back to Argentina, where I'm from. I got my second degree in fashion design. I started a fashion line. I also was teaching. I also had I was running 3 businesses at the time, actually, and bad partnerships, bad moves, not like being very of word. My word is my bond, so I assume yours is too. Not knowing my numbers put me in a situation that one argument kicked me out of 2 of those businesses, at the drop of a hat. And I was on the street because one of those
Wow.
businesses was a bed and breakfast that I managed and really helped run the whole thing, everything about it. But that argument left me out on the street. So the good thing was that I don't always think I was homeless because I did have a little sewing studio that I
Okay.
rented. So I did go sleep on my little factory floor. So I had a place to go, but I didn't really have a home for quite some time. I didn't actually have like a home. I was, sleeping on a cement floor next to the buzz of a refrigerator and lots of sewing machines.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, I think what I'm hearing though is, and this is the part of this that I want to hear more about too, is like the resourcefulness that many entrepreneurial people have, which is just like, okay, well, this didn't work. So it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means I've got to reorganize or shift or, reinvent something maybe a little bit. Is that kind
Yeah.
of what you did?
Oh my gosh. That's what I did then. And I think that's what I keep doing. And that's what
Yeah.
I coach my clients to do. I think that's what we do.
Right.
And if you don't do, that's where you get frustrated with entrepreneurship and you start to make it about you. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart
Right.
enough. There must be something wrong with me. I'm doing this wrong. Everyone else seems to be having a good time and I'm not. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. It's the nature of the game, which is, ooh, oops, mistake made, learn from mistake,
Right.
take in that data, pivot, try something different. So, but I did have an opportunity in that moment. And I think this says something too. My mother called me and insisted I fly back to New York and move in with her. And she's like, just give it up, like you don't have a home, you have to start over. Also, those 2 businesses closing meant that one of my biggest lead flows to my fashion line was attached to those 2 other businesses. So my biggest lead flow had suddenly closed to my fashion line as well. So it was really like start over, do over. And she insisted that I come home and I just was like, "No. I gotta
Yeah.
see this through." I mean, there's a little bit of you're in your 20s and you have that kind of energy and that kind of naivete for sure.
Hmm.
But I was like, no way, this is not going to crush me. I'm not running home to mom and doing what she would like, which is get a corporate job and have a very safe life. I was like, no, I'm sticking this out. And I worked
Right.
my way back up. I had to create new lead flow. I had to create new connections. I had to go network more and go to events and put my clothing out at events. And I'm a total introvert. So I had to, and then I started by renting a room at somebody's house. And then I rented a room in somebody else's house. And like, I went from having, being in this huge 5-story home to starting over, renting
Right.
rooms and doing the whole thing. But there is something about the entrepreneurial journey in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the work that you do is focused on the foundation
Yeah.
and the pillars of your business. So I would imagine that was kind of like, kind of trial by fire a little bit there, right? Like, oh, this wasn't in place, so not only am I going to do it, you also probably could recognize where other people were missing that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I didn't look. There's like two ways to do business, right? There is that 20-year-old. I'm just going to push through and white knuckle it and work 20-hour days. That's
Hmm.
an option, or you get smarter.
Right.
And I try to help people get smarter earlier on in the journey
Ah, I love that.
because I always say to people, look, a business coach, really a good business coach, their one job is to condense time for you because you're up against the clock. Because what's going to happen over time is you're either going to run out of money, you're going
Hmm.
to burn through your run rate, or worse, you're going to burn through your own faith in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what a good business coach or a business coaching program, they shouldn't be giving you the shiny object or the one tactic or the new marketing strategy or the new funnel or building out yourself. They need to be thinking about, how do I actually teach you all the things that you need to know about business, because you deserve to know what you need to know and you deserve to understand it, so that I condense time for you. That business, I ran that business for 9 years, but I made all the mistakes. I didn't think about these things. I
Right.
just was like a spinning plates crazy person. And I had the energy to do that too because I was in my
Right.
20s. But I would say
Right.
that business ran me into the ground. And even when it ran me into the ground, I kept going
Hmm.
until I did hit that day where I was like, there's got to be something wrong with me. Maybe I need an MBA. Which is not the answer, by the way, guys. Don't go get an MBA if you're an entrepreneur. Um, so I learned all this stuff the hard way, really, really, really the hard way. And that's why I'm very passionate about, how do I make it as simple and condensed as possible so that you know the game of business and you run your business that way.
So how did you make that shift, right? Like you were running this business and it was fashion related, and then you were getting your MBA, and now you are, helping us become seven-figure business owners, right? So how did you make that shift? And when did you make that shift?
I think it has a little bit to do with leaning into your strengths and
Mhm.
knowing where you're strong. So for me, I am an engineer at heart and I'm an introvert and I'm an observer. So in my MBA program, I started to observe more and I started to go, what can I went into an MBA trying to be better at business. A lot of people went into their MBA because they needed it to get their promotion and climb the ladder. As an entrepreneur, I didn't even understand that world. I was like, what? Oh, you're just doing this to impress your boss? Like in my brain, I was like, oh no, I'm trying to understand this stuff. I need
Right.
to really figure it out. I've made a lot of mistakes. I gotta get in here. I gotta get my hands dirty. So I really went into engineer mode. And then from there, I worked at a startup, and it was one of those scrappy startups where you are the director of marketing, but you're also kind of the director of ops, and you're also helping with
Right.
sales. You're also like,
Exactly.
and it
Right.
was
Which
great
is what
because
many people listening probably feel like right now in their own business, right?
absolutely. And so it was great for me because I was like, okay, what's working here and what's not working here? So I took that role. I took that position for many, many years because I wasn't running my own business at the time. So I was at a startup as a director of marketing turned director of ops because they were like, wait a minute, this girl understands supply chain. She understands step by step processes that need to happen to get a shirt made. She doesn't need to, she can market it because she can talk about it, but she can talk about it because she understands the operations. And then that company closed. So I paid attention to like why they closed, what happened, what would I have done differently. Then I got a job in corporate sales because of my understanding of marketing, sales, and supply chain, corporate sales and luxury fashion and luxury partnerships. So I learned what really doesn't work in corporate. I closed really big deals, but I did them in this entrepreneurial way. And I always got a lot of pushback from my bosses of like, but you didn't do it our way. And I'm like, yeah, but your way is broken. So I think I just, for many, many years, I think people need to understand this. It's not that like I had one failed business and then started another one and fixed it overnight. Absolutely not. I always tell people this. Think about it for a second. Just think. Most of the successful entrepreneurs that we worship, right, that are big deals in the media or have big platforms, they always talk about how they've had 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 failed businesses before this one that we know them for.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And there's a reason for that. It's because they're actually learning all this stuff and figuring it out business after business after business. I just didn't do that. Maybe I didn't have the backbone for it. I definitely didn't have the budget for it, but I went back into startups and corporates and then back to startup. But with this always running behind in the back of my mind, what's working here, what's not working, what could I learn from this? What would I do differently? I would go, when I was a COO, I would have to report the numbers every week to the board. And I remember being like, no, I'm the process and ops girl and I manage the team and I get everything done, but I can't report on the numbers and sales and the growth plan to you. And they were like, yeah, that's your job too. So I think that my time away from entrepreneurship, I was still running an entrepreneur program in the back of my mind.
I get that. Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
figure it all out. And I think that's a big part of it. And then I became a head coach for a coaching firm and coached hundreds of businesses in a very, very short amount of time. So I started to see patterns. It's ultimately patterns.
That's what I was just going to ask you. What do you look for when you see, or when you're working with a company, or like if I'm listening, to the people that are listening right now, what do you look for when you are, helping somebody make sure that they do have things in place to grow and scale?
Okay, so this is how I think of it, and this is my methodology, and this is the Get Ahead in Business method, which is, you said it earlier, everyone can relate to feeling like they're running all the departments and doing all the things, and they feel really scattered. My theory is that you're only feel that way, but you're actually not doing it.
Okay.
You're running all of the departments from your limited knowledge and skill set of each department. Mm-hmm. There's probably one department where you feel really strong in, whether you're naturally a better marketer or you're a better inspirational leader. You're like that visionary leader that comes up with a new idea every week.
Right.
Right. Or you're like me, that you loved being a COO and you loved operations, but you have trouble getting visible. Whatever it is, you're wearing all the hats, but not really. You're wearing all the hats from the position of whatever hat you're strong in. And business is like sports. Yep. To me, it's kind of like, I always say this, we approach, like, if you were to, do you play soccer?
Do I play soccer?
Yes.
No.
Great. Me neither.
I watch soccer. I know how to I know how to watch soccer.
We are perfect examples for this analogy. I watch soccer. I'm Argentina. I love watching soccer. Right. But if you were in front of a soccer field, you wouldn't dare walk out onto that soccer field and try to play.
Right.
You'd be like, oh no, do not pass the ball to me.
Right. I don't know what I'm doing. You need, like, right. So,
but that's what we do with business.
Right.
We watch it and we go, oh yeah, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And not only I can do this, but
how hard can this be? If this person can do it, I should be able to do it.
Right. I've observed it. I've watched it. I can walk out into the field and run a business and make 7 figures. So that's problem number 1. And number 2, a lot of times, because you're starting a business, you're doing something countercultural that makes a lot of people in your family and your social group nervous and uncomfortable for you. So worse off, you feel like you have to walk out into that field and you feel like you have to be messy. Like, I got to prove myself. Not only do I not know what I'm doing and I don't know how to dribble this ball and I don't know what the positions do. Like, I'm Argentine and I do not know what the soccer positions are. I don't know what each position does, right? Mm-hmm. But that's how we approach business. Like, not only am I starting a business and I don't know what I'm doing, but I got to prove myself.
Right.
And I got to pretend like I know.
Right. So what do we do? So what do you recommend?
What are the positions? Mm-hmm. What do they do? And what is the minimum that each position must do? So what I teach people, the 5 key growth systems are, if you hired a CMO, here are the 3 to 4 things they would own and do. And that's it. All that extra stuff that you're doing is just fluff.
Okay.
If you hired a CFO, they'd want to know these 3 numbers. Right? And that's it. If you hired a CRO, a head of, chief revenue officer or head of sales, they're responsible for 2 things: moving leads down the pipeline and understanding probability to close. Most small businesses don't see their pipeline, don't know their pipeline, don't know their probability to close, don't understand how to manage a pipeline. Right? So what I do is I teach every single department has the basic systems that you need to, it's understanding the game, understanding the rules, understanding what the positions play. And what ultimately happens is when you can look at the game field that way, you can go, okay, wait a minute. Now, if I move this guy over here and I move this guy over here, and then we pass, and you start to make your own strategy because you understand the game of business.
Okay.
So that's how I think about it is, you're not actually wearing all the hats right now. You're playing at marketing. You're doing you're throwing spaghetti at the wall a lot because a lot of people told you to. But there is a technique. If you hired a CMO today, they wouldn't jump in, and a good CMO wouldn't just jump in and make you a content calendar. They'd actually say, okay, hold on, let's back up. Do we have product market fit?
Right.
Do we know who our people are? Does our product actually solve their pain point? Is it priced in a way that they're going to pay for it? And is it priced in a way that's profitable for our business? Do we now know, have we interviewed them enough and we know them so well that we know how to promote and talk and message about said product at said price? Do we have a business model that can scale? Like a good CMO wouldn't start just slapping content at the wall. A good CMO would go, hold up.
Right.
If we don't know who our people are.
Right.
So that's what I do is I get.
So where do you start? Because I can imagine there's people listening going, well, I can't hire a CMO and a CFO and a CRO. And so where do you start?
You should not hire a CMO and a CFO and a CRO guy. Please, guys, just know. That's why I always call them the key growth systems rather than those names, because I don't want people to think
right.
I think that I can give you a chart to give to your people if you'd like, but you need to know what each department owns.
Got it. Okay.
That's it. And what are the simple metrics that a marketing department looks at? What are the simple metrics that a COO is running? What's the simple metrics that your sales should be looking at? Because a lot of times we are trying to do all the things and we're actually not looking at the things that move every department forward.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So how did you develop this proprietary system that you've created, and how do you use it to help people?
Do you want the true story?
Yes, of course.
Are you one of those women that when someone tells you something can't be done, when somebody's like, no, that can't be done, what's your reaction to that?
Yeah. Well, let me, come back to me in a week.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
The true story is I was working at a head coaching firm, and I was the head coach at a coaching firm, and I saw certain things that didn't make sense to me, because if we are seeing the same problems over and over and over and over again, why aren't we educating our people with a big picture, understanding strategy and understanding business, rather than drip feeding them short-term solutions to each thing?
Okay.
And I was like, and why aren't we creating for our clients a CEO dashboard where they can see these key departments and these key metrics so that they can start to take ownership of their business? And I kind of was told it can't be done. And I was like, rolls up sleeves. Can it not be done? So it was a little bit my rebellious, stubborn cry of, I think this can be done differently. And I don't want to coach people and try to convince them every year when their contract ends that they have to keep working with me. I want to give people the keys to the game and teach them how the positions are played, and teach them what metrics each position owns, and teach them to think. That's what fires me up. And so that's why I created the method. Was okay. I sat down one day and I was like, I literally sat at my dining room table. I quit my head coaching role. And I was like, if in a dream world, I could give people everything that I want them to truly know. And every time I've coached a 7-figure business owner, I've always seen, they always have gaps in these foundational pieces. They always think it's something else and it's something bigger, but it's always some like prickly gap of something foundational that they're ignoring. So I just sat down one day with a big piece of paper and I said, if I could give to every business owner the things they really need to have in place and need to know, what would those be? And literally, my method came from this pyramid that I drew of it's level 1. And then you have to do level 1 in order to address level 2. And you can't do the fancy stuff on top until you've done level 1 and level 2. And that's kind of how it was born.
I love that. So how do you work with people now?
So we have the Grown Ass Business Accelerator, where we go through this process and we build out all of this in your business. Whether you are already a 6-figure or 7-figure business, we look at all these pieces in your business and we optimize what you have. And in that process, we always find your unique gap, right? There's always a session where you're like, oh, yeah, I'm a whiz at this. And then the next session, you might be like, oh, yeah, this is the thing I avoid. So we build out that scalable business model and strategy in the accelerator. And we go from there. I'm also a certified mindset coach. And in the Grown Ass Business CEO, which is the advanced program, those people who stay with me, they start working on that level 2 tier of work. And we add mindset work into
I love that. I firmly believe, like if you are watching us on YouTube, like the logo for our She's Linked Up program is like yin yangy a little bit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I do, because I believe that I love strategy, but all the strategy in the world isn't going to move the needle if you haven't done the mindset work. And I could talk to you about strategy all day long, but I feel like not enough people are talking about mindset. And we're asking these people to be people they've never been before. How could they know how to do that? You know? So I love that you incorporate that. And I just,
That was also something I learned from my coaching job was I was like, guys, people are coming to me panicked every 2 weeks. I'm talking them off a ledge. And then 2 weeks later, they're back on the ledge. What do I do for them? And they didn't have an answer. So I went and started to explore in my engineer brain, how do I fix this? And I discovered this thing called mindset. I heard a woman speak on it on a podcast and I called her. I literally found her on Instagram and I was like, you just mentioned you have a certification program. I need it. I need it for my clients. Because awesome. I was constantly giving people the perfect strategy and then they weren't taking action on it. And I couldn't figure out why. I would just do the follow-up. What do we got to do the follow-up? And I needed to understand that other element of why we get in our own way sometimes. Yeah.
So where do you hang out? Where can people find you and find out more about you and what you're doing?
It's very easy to find me on socials. You can DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm very easy to find because I have a funny handle. It's Celi Grows Business, CELI Grows Business. Or
we'll put links to all of that, of course, in the show notes for this.
Yeah. Or you can check out my website. It's grownassbusiness.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. I think that, I think it's important to go. I almost feel like it's a little bit of going back to basics, which probably we all need to do more of every now and then, to kind of go back and look at the systems and look at the foundation. And I love that. And I appreciate you sharing your vulnerability and sharing also, just the journey, because I love telling stories like this or having conversations like this, because I can't imagine there's anybody listening that has not had, if anybody's listening has a path to success that was actually a ladder, I want to know. I want to hear from you. That it wasn't a little bit of a roller coaster-y, I want to hear from you. I haven't talked to anybody yet, but yet we think that should be the case, right? And I think, your point earlier about how the people around us have expectations of what we're doing or don't understand what we're doing, I think that impacts that too. They don't understand, okay, well, you did all this stuff and it didn't work, or didn't work the way you wanted it to work. So it doesn't work. Like, no. It just means that didn't work, and that we can shift things and move things. And like I said, the marketing in the last year or two has been things that I could count on, things that were so reliable are not anymore. And we've had to find new ones, and that's okay, because it's going to happen again, right? It's not going to be, it's not going to be like, okay, now it's this and it's going to stay like this forever.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think to your point, I think the tough thing in times like this are sometimes, if you are surrounded by people who don't understand that that's part of the entrepreneurial journey and don't support it, it's hard to not believe the words, the naysayers around you, right? Yes, marketing has changed. Buyer habits have changed. Sales processes have changed. People are skeptical. They're scared. There's a lot of things we could dig into there in the strategy of it and geek out on it. But what's really hard is when something isn't working anymore, and then you have people around you going, see, it's not working. You should quit. It's very hard. If you are feeling this way, like, you're not alone. I think sometimes the harder thing in these moments isn't the strategy part and figuring out strategy. Strategy is always the easy part. It's take out the emotion, look at the data that didn't work, tweak it, experiment, iterate, measure, keep going, right? The hard thing is not falling into the I suck.
Yep.
They're right. I must suck.
Yep. And I think that what I would love to share is that if you are experiencing that, find people like Celi and I to hang out with, find other entrepreneurs. We've got our LinkedIn for Women community. If you go to linkedinforwomencommunity.com, it takes you to our Facebook page, which is our community. And, come and hang out there with other women that are having these conversations, because it's why I do the show, right? Because I want to be able to, it's like kind of my gift to the universe, right? Because I think that we need to understand, especially if you're doing this in a little bit of a silo, that there's support for you, whether, it doesn't have to be hiring a business coach. It should be. I think, what Celi talked about with the soccer team and being able to play soccer is so key. I am the queen of how hard can this be? Those words come out of my mouth way too often. Right. And I need to, I probably can do a better job of that as well. Right. Yeah. So this was awesome. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here today. I will definitely be following you on all the things and keeping an eye on your journey. And if you loved this conversation, then we would love for you to share this on your social media platforms. Tag me, tag Celi, so that we can share it with our audience. And that's how we lift each other up. That's how we support each other. And that's how this becomes less us talking at you and more us being able to talk with you through these conversations when you're sharing these. So that would be really valuable to us. You can certainly leave a review. That's valuable as well. And, I guess I'll kind of leave you with join that community that I mentioned, because it seems like the topic of the day is that to be a part of a community of people that can support you. It's completely free. And we'll put links in that to the show note as well. And Celi, any last words you want to share with our audience?
No, I love this. I totally agree with you. Share the episode, join the group. What's the name of the group again?
You can go to linkedinforwomencommunity.com. It takes you to the Facebook group. It's Reignite and Rise Up. It's, we're in the middle of rebranding some of this stuff, but the URL goes straight to the Facebook group.
Yeah. But it's important. I feel like I feel like I am like a cheerleader to my clients all the time. And it's important to be in the room with people who are going through the same thing and trying things and experimenting and not beating themselves up. It's key.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. You started this conversation by talking about, we all feel like we are, like we need to be more than we are and that we're not. And in our community, in our free community, which we're still hosting on Facebook, I don't know if we'll do that forever, but right now it's still there. I made a commitment in the last couple of weeks to go live in that group every day, Monday through Friday, to just be more present. Because I think the deeper connections is so important right now. And every day I share one little message that I'd love for the community to maybe journal on or write. And today's was, you are enough, know that you are enough. So yeah, it is important to know that you are. And if it's not working the way you want it to work, it's okay. We'll tweak it. And I'm here to help you with it. Celi's here to help you with it. Let us help you with it. So we'll leave you with that. We'll leave everybody with that. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll be back next week with another episode of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast.